from NCTV, that's.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. This is Abby De Molina, Chair of the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission. We're meeting today, June 29th at 5:05 p.m. in a hybrid fashion. With some people physically present at the trailer at 131 Pleasant Street and some people virtually on Zoom. The first thing we're going to do is roll call, so please respond affirmatively when I call your name. Dave Iverson.
Here.
Nat Lowell.
Here.
Christina Jelemy.
Here.
Dawn Hill.
Here.
Liza Hatton. Here. And the chair, Abby De Molina, is here. I don't think anyone is online. I know a couple of members told me they couldn't make it, so.
Sure. No, we have a name.
No, Brian had a conflict and Mike had a conflict. Unfortunately for them, this is their busy time of year. And I think
Yeah.
they just couldn't make it. And Bert, I don't know.
Okay.
Alright, do I need to establish a form? I guess we established get that. Alright, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay, by the way, I learned this last time, since we're all here, as Dawn taught me, we can say, everybody in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving right along. Is there any public comment for items not included on the agenda? Okay, moving along, we included in the packet, there are minutes for our meetings from June, November, and May. And there it is. Yep, okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. I do have any events?
The only announcement is that you have your regularly scheduled meeting in July. We're planning to take August off.
As shown by our flight attendants. Oh, the other announcement is, I think we will have at our next meeting, a copy of that HUD letter, just as people will do that way.
Okay, I don't know enough to talk about that right now.
Yeah, no, it's just an announcement. We're working on a letter to support a grant from housing Christie's doing, and so we'll have a copy of the next meeting, so just FYI for people. All right, first item on the agenda, we are going to talk about the appointment of our at-large member for the 3-year term. As people know, this is a super popular commission, so we had a lot of interest, and it's really difficult to wade through all of the people who applied. But we had one outstanding candidate, Jessie Bell. Also, just kidding, she was the only person applying. So,
How many years left on this thing?
so there
I
was,
forgot.
it was gonna be up. But then because Liza had taken over the seat from Wendy, Liza served the last year, so now it's a full 3-year term.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that time's in.
It
Okay, yeah.
perfectly,
I-
the stars align.
And
Got it.
how, if I can ask,
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair, how does this work if the home rule petition passes?
This would be
If
county,
we said we were going to phase in the different seats, I believe.
one per cycle.
It's-
Yeah.
We went through several iterations and I think in the final, everyone changes on the same date.
Oh,
But that's spelled out in the legislation.
Okay,
I thought it was phased.
And that's not gonna happen until it passes through.
yeah, no, I know that, I'm just curious.
So anyhow, let me see. If we want, I can read a copy of this letter. For the record. It's in the packet. I guess I won't read the whole letter. Sorry, guys, it's in the packet, but just, kind of to highlight. Jessie believes she has experience in both public and private sector, so she'll be able to give us a perspective of, you know, both of those, which I think will be really helpful. She understands procurement and permitting. And she's a small business owner, which I think is great. That was one of the things that was really helpful with Wendy, is that she was a small business owner as well, so it'll be nice to have that represented. And she also is no small feat homeowner on Nantucket, which we all know is complicated. And also to mention, Jesse, you've been a resident for how many years? 21-year resident of the island, which is great. So I know we always encourage local participation. So it'll be great to have Jesse join if the commission so sees fit. And as I said, the full letter is in the packet. You guys are interested? Otherwise, I will take a motion.
Make a motion to support Jesse Bell as the next, well, for this seat, this at-large seat. Jeez. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion by Nat, second by Dave. All those in favor?
Aye.
Welcome to the commission, Jesse. You're a lucky gal.
Don't forget to sign the Bible.
Yeah, so next steps, just for people to be aware, she will get sworn in and be present at our next meeting. So
You're,
Stay for the rest just to
This one.
hear the.
that's, the.
I wanna go back to the
left
agenda.
packet. Yeah.
Welcome to the gang.
welcome.
Close it out. 'Cause
All right,
Yeah, you did, cause there's.
Anyhow.
tabs. But I can do it. for you.
Next item. We're gonna do an update on the ongoing initiatives of the commission and staff. I know people had seen a version of this before where we talked about the different initiatives. It's kind of like our goals as a commission. And what Leslie's gonna do is go through it and give us an update of where we are on the different items. And I believe everything that is updated is in red.
Mhm.
This document is also in the packet. So Leslie, let me kick it over to you.
Okay, well, Megan, can you put it up on this? All right, so this document was first provided to the commission in February of 2025. We've done several updates since. This is just your latest update. This time around, I have added some additional information about exactly what we've been working on and what has been completed. And I will start with the NPADC legislation. As you all know, that process, at least on the local end, has been completed. Article 74 was approved at the annual town meeting. I'm not sure if the select board has transmitted the home rule petitions to the legislature yet, but if not, that'll be happening soon. And we will keep you updated as to when any hearings or anything takes place that may need the attention of the commission or staff. I mean, I would anticipate that we would provide testimony to any Senate committee when that's scheduled.
Just to note, Bert Johnson joined. It's 5:13. Thank you, Bert.
Roll call.
I got confused. I was waiting in Zoom for the executive meeting. I thought that was gonna be first.
Okay, sorry, but thank you for coming. We're just on the initiatives document and you can see it on the screen. So, but thank you for coming. I just wanted to note for the record that Bert joined.
Okay, next category, transportation.
Oh, just one quick question on that. And do you have any kind of time frame on when that will, the legislation and how that goes about?
Not right now. And once it's transmitted to the legislature, at some point it is sent out to committee for discussion. And I do sign up for updates from the committees, so I'll know not too far in advance. You usually only get maybe like a week's notice as to when the hearings are coming up. So it's something that you really have to pay attention to. But it's usually in the fall, like late fall. Or at least that's been my experience with the legislation that I've been following. And we do sometimes engage with MARPA. They have a whole legislative team that can help us navigate through a process and provide support. So transportation, provide a regional voice for issues affecting Nantucket. This is ongoing. We work with municipal leaders from town administration. We work with municipal leaders from other communities and with MARPA and with state legislators as needed. We've provided a lot of input on the Cape Cod Bridges project. We've been working with the Nantucket Memorial Airport on a project out there. And we've really been coordinating with the Governor's Commission on Micro Mobility to ensure proper regulations for e-bikes and scooters. You all may remember Joe Topham made an announcement about that at town meeting. We continue to work with MassDOT. You see that through the presentations at your monthly meetings. We support the town and county through multimodal transportation projects. Some things that staff's working on right now are supporting the milestone road improvements. And at the Rotary, No Whittier Farm Road intersections. We're working with a federal grant on the Wall-Winnett bike path, the Tom Nevers bike path. There's Pleasant Street pedestrian improvements. We're involved with a project involving the 2 fairgrounds municipal parking lot and surrounding roads. Coming up with a better way to manage all of that for both parking and traffic. Providing professional support to town and Nantucket departments. Again, that's something that's ongoing. Long range planning,
What you forgot, we helped establish TPAC.
we did help establish TPAC. That's probably it's in the last bullet.
Yeah.
At the bottom of the page.
Just highlighting that, remember TPAC, that was a lot of fun.
And those appointments were just made by the town manager for TPAC, so that will be up and going very soon. Long range planning, support the planning board on the master plan. Planning commission staff is managing the project with the consultant. We're very involved in the project. Funding has been provided through the NPDC with the grant that we get from the state every year for technical support. Supporting and facilitating neighborhood area plans. Right now, we have one that's outstanding. That's the Nantucket area plan update. What we've determined is that these area plans need a lot more staff support, and until we can wrap up some other projects, we don't have the capacity to start new ones. But we do have some that are waiting in the queue for when we can do that. And primarily Surfside and Brant Point have come forward, and they know that we're finishing other things right now. I'm supporting initiatives brought forward by boards, committees, commissions. That's ongoing work, both through the commission members that are appointed and staff as needed to provide support. Supporting community initiatives of regional concern. We consistently provide technical assistance through the PLUS agreement to various town departments. Working with local and state officials, that's ongoing. Working cooperatively with the Nantucket Historical Commission as applicable. That's ongoing. Primarily, Mike Burns works with them on transportation related projects. Advocate on behalf of the Nantucket region. The NPDC has a representative on MARPA, which is the director. Seasonal Communities Council, you voted for the deputy director to be your representative on that. The Rural Policy Advisory Committee, the deputy director, and then the Ocean Advisory Commission, Jeff Carlson is your representative. We attend the monthly meetings of all of these groups and advocate on behalf of the region, which is a local municipality. Next page. All right, we're also working on enhancing coordination and collaboration between the NPDC and local policy boards. You all have had joint meetings with the Board of Health and the County Commissioners Board of Selectmen, Select Board in the past. Some habits are hard to break in the past year. Legislative initiatives. Advocate for issues affecting the Nantucket region. We've partnered with the Martha's Vineyard Commission to contract with the UMass Amherst Donahue Institute to produce a study reviewing the economic impact of the proposed real estate transfer fee. We have been working closely with the Martha's Vineyard Commission on some other initiatives, like to develop model bylaws for the state, for the ADUs, for the seasonal communities. At your April meeting, you voted to fund a seasonal population estimate. That contract was approved with UMass Donahue. They're starting the project soon. We're gonna have a kickoff meeting internally at the staff level, maybe next week. Staff spent a lot of time working with town council and meeting with staff at EOHLC, the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, to develop bylaws for the town for the accessory dwelling units. that were required as part of the Affordable Homes Act, and now known as 760 CMR. And then we work very closely with MARPA on advocating for statewide initiatives. So we advocate for continued support for district local technical assistance. That's the funding that you receive from the state. Every year, there's $50,000 received for initiatives related to planning for growth. There's another 33,000 that's in an associated program. That one's changed a little bit. It used to have to be used for projects receiving federal funding only. Now it can be used for some other things. I, as your director, sign on through MARPA on legislative bills that would clearly support our region and residents of the region. And the NPDC for your staff is currently participating in the Massachusetts Integrated Land Use Strategy Project with the other RPAs. You may recall Kurt Gardner was here a few meetings ago to give you a presentation about exactly what that is. It's basically a statewide land use mapping exercise. Your staff's been very active on the Seasonal Communities Advisory Council. Again, assisting in the development of model bylaws for the Commonwealth. We've met several times with different legislators to talk about like what it means to be a seasonal community, what the impacts are, and how, you know, we have different needs from the other locations in the Commonwealth. And then advocate for local initiatives and advance regional planning efforts. That's ongoing. Then management of the Plus office. This was not included for some reason in a prior version of this, so we wanted to, you know, make sure no one forgets that a big part of our jobs is the day-to-day management of Plus. So you have the MOU between the commission and the select board. The director oversees management of the office, including supervision of all staff. We have 20 full-time staff, a part-time staff person, and various on-call people as needed. We have weekly meetings with administrative staff and bi-weekly meetings with other planning staff, like the land use specialist, the preservation planner, that level of staff. And then management of the Plus budget, which is about $2.6 million. We also manage any projects or contracts for which Plus is responsible. There's the daily operations and general oversight of the building, coordinating staff support for all the regulatory boards, planning board, zoning board, HDC, plus any advisory boards, providing support to town administration, and then meeting with other public officials and the public. So there's a lot going on that, you know, your staff people are managing and overseeing and responsible for. Plus the initiatives that the commission as a whole has to fulfill.
Right. Any questions?
We could talk all day, so it's better not say anything. I mean, it's a good overview, though. I think that's good. I mean, when you start talking about Tom Nevers, it. It's like ad nauseum forever, but those are huge projects. They're not like just get out the equipment and just build a bike path, you know.
I mean, those take a lot of staff time.
Huge
staff
amount of
support.
work today to do stuff like this. Just think, you know, in regards to the population thing, I think this is really good timing. Because we need to kind of put this to bed somehow. And I want to meet with those people about my little ways of figuring out what's going on here and number of reservations and things like that. And with this whole drought, sort of timing of that happening at the same time and that actually both articles, both media were good because they talked about the well in Russell's Way that Mark talked about with our meeting, whenever that was. Seems like it was almost a year ago that this started, but it was probably about 8 months. Well, that's what I was gonna suggest. So
I
like
think
he
we talked about having him come back in the fall.
I think that him going to select board meeting is more important because everybody's watching. Like, if we have a joint meeting, if we have some kind of
So we can
discussion
do it
about
all.
this, I think we should be, I think this needs to be explained. And unfortunately, it gets sort of used to talk about too many people and all this stuff, and we ran water to Nantucket and everybody forgot about that, you know what I mean? So he does such a good job explaining this. And it's not easy because there's a lot of state law involved and their control over how much we can pump. And then at night, it fills the tower back up, and there's a whole bunch of things going on with water here every day in the summertime that you don't even think about. You know, so. I think it's good timing with the population, whatever we're doing, those people, so, thank you.
Dawn, I'm sure you guys aren't busy at select board.
Well, I mean, I know we will be scheduling a joint meeting with the NPDC and the planning board. But we were going to do 3 group meetings after we revise our strategic plan in October.
Mhm.
So if you want to do something sooner in regard to the water.
I wasn't
we could-
suggesting that, I'm just,
I mean,
I think it's a
could
good
put it on
time.
an agenda and have you guys, I mean, you guys are welcome to come.
yeah,
But I know that we do want to schedule a joint meeting that we're going to be doing 3. One will be with the Board of Health and with the Concom, one will be with NPDC and planning. And one will be with Finance Committee and Capcom, I think, but we wanted to do it in relation to any revisions to the strategic plan and just having everybody
Yeah.
like understand where we're coming from and how things join together.
Well, we could have, like you said, we could just have them put it on the agenda. We have a joint meeting with the water commission, and it's just like, you guys just put it on, like you said, so people watch it, cause.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's a lot of people watching this right now.
no, that's why
I
I'd
think
like
that
what
would be a
Don-
good idea if we
I think
just.
Don's
vote on it.
suggestion is if we just, attend the meeting and put just post the meeting in case there's a quorum. But I just feel that in the summertime, we've talked about this over the years, when the people are here, seasonal residents are here. It's nice to have these conversations sometimes when they're here,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I just think that the timing of this Donahue thing that just came out, I'd forgotten about, to be honest with you. And then this whole water thing simultaneously, I think it's a really good time to discuss it. So that's all I'm trying to say.
I think that makes sense, right? Hold on, did you say another commissioner joined?
Joe Topping.
Okay,
Joe on that? Okay.
so just for the record, Joe Topham, I think joined.
So,
Hi, Joe. Okay,
Yeah, just a quick comment. I'm really glad to see something about 2 fairgrounds parking lot because parking is like a crisis downtown. So if there's something to do to improve the parking outside of the downtown area that could help people get into town, I think that would be awesome. And I'm also happy to see the Sparks Avenue side path on there. Yeah.
any other questions, comments?
Hmm.
Okay, if you think of anything, you know where to find me. We're gonna move on to the transportation program manager update. We have a couple of things here, but Mike, I will kick it over to you. We're gonna start off with the travel demand forecast model.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hope you can hear me and I hope I'm sharing the correct screen there.
And we can hear
So,
you.
thank you. So the travel demand forecast model, we have said here, Murthy from TrafInfo, who's the consultant that's been hired to develop a travel demand model for Nantucket. I'll say that Sid here has a lot of experience in traffic modeling. He actually did the traffic modeling for the Cape Cod bridges and the new streets that'll connect in to that area. I will preface his presentation by telling you all the first part of the presentation would be rather technical, but we all know that you're not traffic modeling experts. I'm not a traffic modeling expert, but I think Sid here is going to try to succinctly go over some of the variables that went into the model development. I would ask that you pay attention to the calibration part of this. I mean, scary term in the modeling world's calibration, but he's going to go over some of the elements that help the model reflect the local conditions, such as the local demographics, the employments and things like this, all these other variables that factor into trip decisions. I think that's very important. And then we'll share some of the build out numbers and then what staff is recommending we use as far as a 2050 horizon for building out. So I would ask that appreciate some of the technical language that goes on in the beginning of the presentation, but there's actually valuable things that we kind of need the commission to weigh in on with the calibration factors and then the future build out. So with that preface, Madam Chair, hand it over to Sudhir Murthy, and Sudhir, when you want me to go ahead and change the slides, just let me know you're ready to transition. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mike. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so yeah, before we get into the actual presentation, I just wanted to touch upon what we are calling it as the Nantucket Travel Demand Forecasting Model. You will see the acronym TDFM throughout this presentation, but that's what we are referring to. It's primarily the tool for Nantucket to be able to assess land use plans and projects and make a more data-informed decision going forward. The ways that the model helps in assessing impacts and strategies is through vehicle miles traveled. There are other measures as well that also are related to air quality. We also get V over C, we call it volume or capacity, speeds and other things, but predominantly what's used is vehicle miles traveled and air quality. This tool will help the Nantucket figure out some of the strategies that would support the goals, like reducing single occupant vehicles and encouraging greater use of transit or walk and bike modes. And very quickly, the way we are building this model, or we have built this model, is to start from something that already exists and has been well developed, which is the statewide model by CTPS, Central Transportation Planning Staff, the Boston MPO's planning staff, and then extract out from there everything that's related to Nantucket and then start from there. So that got us a running start of the model. Next slide, please. And so the outline is going to be a quick description of how we extracted the model, and then get into the meat of what Mike was talking about, which is some of the updates that we made and then this calibration. What did we do to make the model reflect local conditions? There are some snapshot results of the base year model. That's the one that we calibrate. And then we will talk about a few things that we are working on. One of it that we are currently working on is developing a peak season model. And then, as Mike mentioned, discuss about future scenarios that you would like us to evaluate. And then we'll talk next steps. Next slide, please. The first step that we did was, as I mentioned, extract Nantucket out of the statewide model. A lot of the gory details are in the tech memo, but at a very high level, what we are doing is take the entire data set of highways and extract out Nantucket, take the entire data set of population, employment, all the demographic data, extract out Nantucket, and then start running the model. The statewide model referred to as TDM23, that expects a few things. Because it's a statewide model, it expects to have a toll facility. It got confused when we were doing Nantucket only and there was no toll facility. It expects to have a park and ride law, transit facilities. And so those are some of the things that we added. And there were a few software scripts that it uses that got all upset when it didn't see any of the other 13 MPOs. So we had to adjust it so that it doesn't complain about things that's not relevant to Nantucket. Once we did that, we got an idea of where we are at. Working with Mike, he provided us some valuable traffic volume data on some of the key places throughout the island that the planning department collects. That sets the base level that the model needs to reflect. And so that told us that there needs to be some important updates. Next slide, please. The first one was we saw that the statewide model had only 11 TAZs. The entire island was divided into 11 traffic analysis zones. So the first step was to try to break it down a little bit more. One of the things that we did working with Mike and Chuck was to aligned these TAZs to have a little bit of a meaning when we present information. And so we made it align with some of the planning districts. They all are based on the US Census blocks. This is what one of the requirement was from CTPS. So we went through a few iterations. We sent that over to CTPS and they've accepted it. So we will use this TAZs, but the next version of the statewide model will incorporate these new traffic analysis zone boundaries. Next slide, please. So you see here on the left, thanks to Mike, a nice graphic that shows the new traffic analysis zones that we have defined. You can also see that the old, for example, the old TAZ number 5011 is broken down into 3, A, B, and C. And on the right, you can see how they relate to the major planning districts, so that in future, when we share information, we will be able to refer to these planning districts because they align with some of the TAZs. Next slide, please. So once we break down the geographic region into TAZs, the next step is to update the highway network. Because we had more TAZs, we needed to add more highway links. We are also going to add the transit routes. I'm going to get in a second. And for that, you had to add a few more highway links to it. And then in general, based on input from Mike and Chuck Larson, we are adding highway links that would in future help us assess any future highway projects that the town has. All of the speeds had to be looked at and updated. Again, Mike provided us some really good information on speeds. And also we got access to this third-party data called Replica. This is through Mass DOT. They allowed us access to it. And that provides throughout the island what the volumes are, what the speeds are, and that we used to update our highway network. Next slide, please. This gives just a rough idea of, a portion of the network related to the town center. And it also shows graphically where the volumes are heavier. This is showing a daily traffic. And you can see that, some of the high streets on an average annual basis, not during a peak season, but on an average annual basis. These are some of the roads that have heavier volumes. Next slide, please. The next thing we did was add the transit network. The statewide model does not include the NRTA because it's for their purposes, they did not need to add it, but for ours, we do. And so for the base level model, we have added the 4 year-round transit services that you see on the screen. All of the bus stops were defined as they have been defined on the NRTA website. We also added the parking lot at 2 Fairgrounds Road. And the plan is that when we create a peak season model, which I will get to shortly, we will add the remaining transit routes because they only operate during the peak season. Next slide. This shows a graphical representation from the model, a screenshot of the 4 year-round transit routes. Again, you will see because they overlap on Orange Street, on Union, Washington Street, you don't see all of them individually, but there are all the routes, the airport, the one going to Sconset via Old South Road, the Metacom and the Meocomet Loop. All of those are shown on this one. Next slide, please. So once we have created all these, the first step is to see how well the model can replicate the volumes that are on the network. And like I mentioned, Mike had provided us these ADTs, average daily traffic volumes. And so what we found was that at the outset, the model was underestimating the volumes. And so when we start calibrating it, we sort of also learn about what are some of the unique characteristics of the island. The first one was the model tries to take the demographic data and estimate the number of vehicles a household has. If we compared it with what the state has, the model was underestimating it. And so that sort of led us to say, yeah, okay, there is a reason why the model is currently underestimating it. And so this area type, changing it from a rural to a suburban, helped us add more traffic to the network. The next we noticed was that the model was underestimating the number of ride shares. One of the things that we noticed is Nantucket has the fourth highest number of rideshare trips. After Boston, Somerville, and Cambridge, it is Nantucket that has a high number of rideshare. And so we needed to tweak the model to be able to reflect that. And one of the reasons we found was some of the default wait times that the model uses. By changing it, we were able to increase the number of rideshare trips. There were a few things that we also were testing that ultimately did not go anywhere, but it was sort of a step that we had to take. We were seeing that the model was not estimating enough number of vehicle miles traveled. That is, if I take the volume and multiply it by the length of each of the links in the highway, that's what's called a vehicle miles traveled. It's the total amount of travel that people do on the island. And the state data portal was showing a high amount. The model was underestimating it. So we were thinking that one of the possible reasons may be people are selecting longer distance destinations. And so we were thinking maybe that's what the reason is. So the model uses a destination choice where it assigns probability of people choosing a destination. We sort of went in and increased the probability of somebody choosing a destination greater than 2.5 miles. Okay, we tested it. That didn't seem to make much of a difference. Next slide, please. The thing that we found more interesting is what we call intrazonal trips. So based on the demographic and employment of a TAZ, the model generates a number of trips. Out of that, a portion of it stays within the TAZ and the rest go out to other TAZs. As it is, it depends on how many vehicles the households have. So given in Nantucket, there are a lot of vehicles per each household. In general, the model does estimate it at a low probability. But what we found was that we had to decrease it even further, which basically means that most of the trips that occur using vehicles, they tend to leave the TAZ that they are in and go to an adjacent TAZ. And so the number of intrazonal trips that's within each TAZ is fairly low currently. And so we had to adjust the model to reflect that. You typically have high intrazonal trips when there are households without sufficient vehicles, or if there is sufficient opportunities for bike and ped opportunities, that's when you see a lot of intrazonal trips. So with high availability of vehicles, it's reasonable to expect that in Nantucket currently, not in future when we implement traffic management demand strategies, but currently it looks like it's on the low side. Next slide, please. The other thing we did, even again, all of these are incremental steps that we are taking. And even after all these, we are still not meeting the actual volumes. And so we then had to increase the rate at which trips are generated. And it looks like it is 50% higher than on an average in Massachusetts. And so we had to increase all the trip rates by 50%, the rate at which trips are generated. And then we had to go in and increase by an additional 20%, specifically those trip purposes that are related to social recreational, which is understandable in Nantucket, as well as some non-work trips. And I will get to in a second on what those are. We also had to specifically account for construction-related jobs. The statewide model has a very low rate for construction because they have a very small amount of the jobs are related to construction. In Nantucket, construction is the third highest and accounts for 14% of the jobs. And so we had to account for it separately. In addition, we had to account for additional daily trips that occur because of ferry passengers and by passengers using the airport. And so with all of that accounted for, next slide, please. We now have a base model that is within 2% root mean square error of the actual conditions. We, I think, have got a reasonable model. And what it basically shows is a very high level of trips that are personal business related, that is not work related. This is going to, I don't know, some dentist shop or things like that, or social recreational, which is understandable. There is, some amount of school trips, based on the enrollment that the model has. And then there are non-home-based trips. One is work-related, that is people who are going to work, but from a non-home origin. And then there are other trips that start off as a home-based work trip, but then once you get to work, there are somebody who has to go to the store to get, I don't know, fertilizers or tools or things like that. And those are called non-home, non-work trips. And you can see that that is high. And based on discussions with Mike and Chuck, it seems to be that's a big component of the traffic that is occurring on the island. And so in general, we have been able to tweak the parameters to reflect some of the things that's on the island. You can see it's a very high auto mode, 86% of it, 50% of it are drive by themselves. The rest 34% is they share it, and then about 2% of ride share. Next slide, please. So we have a base level model. One thing we are working on next is to create something called a peak season model so that we'll be able to assess on an average basis what happens and then on the peak season. And we are going to be discussing this with Mike and trying to figure out what level we use. You know, the population almost doubles in July and August. You know, we don't want to take the worst because that is going to add, we are going to be planning for the worst case scenario. We want to pick something that makes sense, and we will work with Mike to figure out what would be a good, you know, average increase that we should use during the peak summer months. We also have to account for the increase in daily ferry passengers that come, which is about 1,500, and daily air passengers that goes up to about 1,000 during summer. So we are building that peak season model, and we will share those results with you in the next meeting. Next slide, please. So once we have the peak season, the next thing we will start looking at are the future scenarios. And the first one, it's a fairly simple one, is to use the long-range transportation plan that the state is using for the 2050. And you can see the population estimates that they have come up with, which I think they must have, that they've worked with the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission to come up with these numbers, and you will see it reflected in subsequent slides. But they were estimating about 5,000 increase in population, about 1,500 households, and about 550 or so jobs from now till 2050. In addition to this, we also have to account for growth trends in ferry and air passengers. And so Mike has given us a lot of data on this that we should be able to establish some kind of a trend to estimate what it would be roughly, assuming the current trends remain at 2050. Next slide, please. The next one that Mike alluded to was the build-out analysis that has been done. So on the left side, you see the trends that are accounted for in the long-range plan by Mass DOT. On the right is the build-out analysis that has been done that estimates the maximum amount of housing units that you can have on the island. And so this one, again, we are going to be working with Mike, trying to figure out what level. So next slide, please. The one that is recommended by the staff is, you see there for the build-out analysis, that we will be looking towards a trend, you know, keeping a trend, not go to the max amount of dwelling units, but use something that is somewhat reasonable to test, you know, to stress test the transportation infrastructure on the island. Next slide, please. So then what's our next step? The next step is we are working towards our July 27th meeting, at which point we will share with you more graphically some of the roadway congestion or baseline in terms of where there are congestion now on an average basis. We will also have the peak season model there, and we will share some of the results of the base model so that you can confirm that, yeah, these are the places where we typically have problems both on an average basis and during the peak summer season. And at that time, we will also like to start talking about what are some of the strategies that the town would like for us to assess using the model. It could be land use based. There could be some infrastructure based that could involve, you know, highways, walking and bike amenities. We could make a list of that. Any shared travel strategies that would encourage greater use of the NRTA and others. So this is where we will sort of looking towards ideas that we can take back with us and convert those into changes in the model parameters to be able to assess what likelihood their effectiveness will be. Next slide, please. And then in August, we are going to be hunkering down to start working on the future scenarios and come back to you in September with results for the future scenario with the long-range plan and the future scenario with the build-out analysis that we discussed for both an average weekday, annual average weekday, and the peak summer season. And we also want to share with you at that time results of those TDM strategies that we sort of selected. Again, just to wrap it up, this is like this rough schedule that we have for the overall project. And so we are in June where we finished the calibration. Next month, we are going to be, or starting from a couple of days, we are going to be working on the peak season model, and we'll come back to you for a list of TDM strategies. August is future scenarios we are going to be working on to present to the select board in September the results. And then October, we close out the project with a final report and user guide of the model. I'm going to hand it back to Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hope that wasn't too overwhelming at the beginning with the technical information, but like I said, the community profile and our trip generation, I think I said here did a lot of work to make the model kind of reflect the actual field conditions that we're measuring. The town's been very generous with investing in the traffic counters. We have an array of permanent traffic counting stations around the island that we're using to kind of proof this. This is invaluable information for Sadir to use for the model to make sure that all the calibrations he's making actually reflects what's out in the field. The build out, just to Madam Chair, if it's all right, just to go back to here, what's highlighted here in green is the trend in building and development on the islands that talking with Leslie seemed to make sense as far as a realistic goal to build the model out to. This is like an additional 5,000 or so dwelling units being added. We did not want to use the maximum build out, which is this dotted line at the very, very top showing an additional 17-something thousand. We don't think we'll hit that. So I thought that was responsible and objective to use something that's not necessarily reflective of like a 1% growth trend, but something that's actually representative of trends that we've actually had with issuing permits. So that's what we'd recommend. And I'll stop there and ask if there's any questions from you all that we should prepare for as we get ready for the July meeting. Just one other point, we said here didn't mention a September meeting. We would ask if we could work towards a joint meeting with the select board to review that. If that's not possible, we'd still like to shoot for a September presentation at the NPDC just to share the results of the model. But I think it'd be beneficial to have both the select board and the NPDC review the presentation. So I'll stop there, Madam Chair, and ask if there's any questions that we can help answer.
Any questions?
I guess I would love some clarification. The goal of the model is to be able to use it to see where the traffic is going to continue to increase and max out.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that would be the base level. When we do the 2050 LRTP scenario and 2050 build, what we will find out is where does the traffic increase the most? Where would you have congestions? Would it be in the AM, in the PM? Would you see some congestion during the midday period? It's 24 hours. It models all 24 hours of the day. And then you would also then be able to see, okay, if I try to implement this travel demand management strategy, does it make any effect at these hotspots or not? And so you will be able to see that as well. Yes.
And so, Mike, you have the data, you've been collecting the actual raw data to show where we're getting gridlocked as of today, like not in 2050, but like in 2026, right? Like you're seeing that. How does that work with this model? Is this model only for future forecasting, or is it being used? Can we use it for like next year, not just in 2050?
So the model is being calibrated for the sort of the base year, and for the statewide model, the 2019, which is pre-pandemic level, was used to make it easier for us to calibrate to it. So we are using data from that point on. When we present it at the next meeting, you will see that the model is going to show where it sees congestion. That we can then compare it against the congestion data that Mike has and see, okay, does it make sense? Does it reflect all the congestion points that the island has? You could then use it for any number of intermediate years from now till 2050. That is available as a tool for the town. We would have to work with the town to create the population and employment estimates. Let's say you want to assess at 2030, let's say, or 2029. Then we would have to create those time periods, and then the model is available for you to use it. Right now, at this point, we are planning for the 2050.
And Madam Chair, if I could expand on that and ask Sid here just to verify that I'm not talking out of school, I'm going to cycle to a slide that shows the different TAZs. I hope I'm on the right track here, Sid here. When we do the 2050 projection, each of these TAZs are going to have an estimate for population employment. It's going to give a trip generation that's different from what it is today. It'll predict what it'll be in 2050. That added traffic, so here's kind of modeling this to see, okay, where their origin is in the TAZ, and what TAZ are they trying to travel to, and other TAZs they travel through to get to that TAZ. That's how it predicts the added congestion. We can ask Sid here as part of a supplemental effort if we have different connectors, new roadways that we have within a TAZ, to do an analysis of that to see if that's relieving some of the congestion. But Sid here also spent a lot of time talking about the interzonal or intrazonal trips. That gets to a lot of what the planning board has as a goal, having services and being able to buy goods within proximity that you can just walk from wherever you live to a corner market or something. And that keeps you from having to drive into downtown or something to get whatever you need. That will cut down on trips. So the more we build in to minimize those trips from one TAZ to another, and that you have things located within proximity, that'll have a positive effect on traffic. So we're asking Sid here as part of this 2050 build out that we actually incorporate some of the goals, and we achieve the goals through our land use policies, and we actually have a zoning strategy that allows commercial uses and other services to be within proximity where people live, so that we can cut down on those trips. And he can do that, and we'll present that as part of the 2050 scenario, one of the scenario outcomes. We can also do a scenario where we don't do that, and you see what the traffic's going to be. So so did I hit that correctly? Did I talk out of school at all?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Yeah, you explained it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is too magical. I mean, we're basing off this on growth projections, and we're building where we think that's going to happen. So this is the best thing we have to make an educated guess of what those future conditions are going to be, and what the different scenarios are going to be, and how that affects trip choices.
I mean, I think it's great data, and it's, important to build this stuff out. I'm just more concerned about kind of the immediate needs, and, you're talking about what's gonna happen in 2050, and I wanna know what's gonna happen by like 2030, because it seems like we're on a trajectory that's gonna be unsustainable through soon. So that was all.
Yeah.
Are we going to be able to use, I might be just saying what you're saying, but are we going to be able to use this data to come up with projects like in the interim if like we figure anything out? Or is like, are you suggesting that like if there's an area where it makes sense to say there should be a grocery store here, like, or something along those lines to cut down on trips through these areas, like that we can take that initiative sooner?
Constant Stop and Shop.
Yeah. So
Does
the
that
way
mark
that
around?
the way that we would do it is, if let's say one of the strategies is, that the town will come up with ways to make services available within each TAZ. we would sort of translate that mathematically into a certain way, say, yeah, that is going to account for X% of reduction, or of an increase in intrazonal trips. Let's see what happens. That sort of gives you a level at which you need to be able to see the level of improvements on the highways. So you are, from the stool, you're able to get level of magnitude of how much you need to reduce to be able to have a meaningful effect on the congestion. Yeah. And then going back to, if let's say, if the commission is interested in 2030, like if you see the 2050 is really bad, then the next question that logically will come up is, okay, when does it get bad? Can you tell us some between from now till 2050 when that's another thing that we can do. It's as a supplement to this is if we can take a look at an intermediate year and see, okay, when does the congestion gets really bad to a point where it's unsustainable. So those kind of things this model will allow us to do forward. But for now, we are doing the base and the 2050.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
And just for clarification, base is 2019, correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
good. Yes. Yeah. And the other thing, what we have noticed is that after we came out of the pandemic, the 2019 and 2024-25 are very similar. So we are at a point where we are back to where we were roughly before the pandemic.
Mike, can I ask you something just to answer what you've done with this gentleman for a minute? Has he been over here in Nantucket, Mike?
Yeah,
I don't mean to ask a stupid question because it's not stupid, it just sounds it. Like, have you lived in this for a few days at different times? Like, have you been over here to see what happens?
Yeah, no, so I have to say that I've been not for
Not
this,
like any
for
other
my
place you've been,
own.
I can tell you that.
Yeah, I visited Nantucket, yes, and I'm familiar with. I stayed in the Union Street Inn. That's where
Oh, okay.
I stayed in. So yes, I am familiar with just that town. I haven't gone around to the outskirts of it, but within the town center, yes, I'm familiar with it. Yeah, I've been there.
So when you were here, I'm sure you sort of said to yourself, everyone's driving around the same roads.
Yeah.
Like it looks like everybody's just like a fishbowl, like we're swimming in around the fishbowl, but we don't go outside of it very much.
Yeah.
Because when you go outside of it, there's no traffic. When I go out to the east end or the west end, it's fine, but to get to Nantucket Road
Yeah.
is the problem. It's not Nantucket Road. It's not Pocomo. It's not Walwinet. It's getting there. And that's because of the way Nantucket developed over time. And that's just how it is. It's not going to change. So, Mike, did you tell him when we started talking about roundabouts 23 years ago and how we've only built one? Does he know this? All this?
Madam Chair, we didn't go into a lot of great detail. I think we've had lots of casual conversations about traffic improvements that we had hoped to have done and should have had implemented and just haven't. But we've also talked about other ideas and connections that we think that we just, kicked around a little bit. And we've talked about that as well. The kind of conditions like the morning commutes that we do with the ferry operations and things like that. We've gotten very into the weeds, and Chuck Larson loves this stuff too. We've gotten very into the weeds about talking about the local conditions that are so unique here and not so different from other places. So I think he's got a very good education just by talking to Chuck and I about those kinds of things, those variables that are so unique to Nantucket.
The unfixable. And that's what I was getting at. Thank you, Mike.
Well, Nat, what I was gonna suggest is, Mike, let's set up some time for him to have a one-on-one session with Mr. Lowell. He can get all of the background he wants.
Here's the thing, how do you pronounce his name? Sadir?
Yeah.
I just want to say, one of the biggest factors here is keeping everybody spread out, right? So the fast boat, the first boat gets in at like 7:15, 7:20, even though it's supposed to be 7:10. It's a little later than that. So you have the old parking lot down there that was never designed to be the airport. Trying to be the airport, okay? And then, once those people leave, I know,
Nat,
but it is.
let's have, I'm serious, let's
Yeah.
have you meet with this
Yeah.
guy and you can give him all
I
this
think
context.
that just by what Mike said. When he talked to Chuck and stuff, that's actually where
Well,
I
I
was
think that's
headed.
great and you can add to it.
That's good. So,
I just wanna make sure, let's put that as a note. Mike, we'll put that as a note that we'll set up some time with Lowell.
take a walk downtown.
Yeah, he'll
Yeah,
show him
sure.
around next time he's here.
I'm happy to travel.
Right.
I would love to come.
Okay, next time you're here, you'll have a one-on-one session with the
Yes.
legend. At Lowell. We have a question from Commissioner Topham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I think that it'd be nice for a ride around with Nat and Mike and I think that would be really so and Shadar, is that how you say it? Sorry. I think to come down for the spend a couple days, cloudy day, town's completely different on a cloudy day. Everyone's racing down to get in and but I think to go around and spend a day of just driving around, you would quickly see where the pinch points, certain time of the day. I mean, going on Old South Road, just going back and forth from the airport. At certain hours, it's fine. Sometimes it's all the way down to the airport. So I just think there's times where we could you're seeing it, you're visualizing, you're sitting in the car, you can set timers, you really get a sense of how slow it goes or quickly it goes, but then how certain people don't know how to navigate an intersection based on small little idiosyncrasies or how to work a rotary. So there's some flaws that's well designed, but there's a driver error or not quite sure how to use something. So, but I just think it would be advisable to have the three of you ride around together.
Ride
And
along would be good.
yes, so
The police do it, you should do it. Great.
Oh, well, Joe just said what I tried to say. You did a better job.
All right,
Exactly right.
we got it on the, as a takeaway, Mike. So,
Because this is something could go on for hours, so we can't do that. But I do appreciate all the work that you've done. And
Yes.
thank you.
thank you. Do we have any action other than, I think we have that takeaway, set up the ride along?
I like the joint September idea. I think, because we start talking about build out. Leslie and ground cover build out, like, see, this is where we didn't get in there. We
Okay.
have to be able to have all the information right there. Okay, the big landowners, that's open space, that's buildable, that's never gonna get built. There's so much land here that is not going to get built, even though it's on the list of buildable.
Yeah.
So we have to explain that. So that, and I do think that number 5 is probably pretty accurate. Right? I mean.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Was Mike saying that you wanted to try to present this to the select board this summer?
I think there was was it the September date?
September.
I thought you said NPDC in September.
No, well, he did, but there's something up there, see the select board presentation? I think we should be at your meeting, just like
Yeah.
there.
Oh, okay.
That's what
Yeah,
I
we
was
would
referring
do,
to,
we do a joint meeting, but again, we'd align with your stuff.
not a joint meeting in here, just be at.
Yeah, we just show up at.
Yeah.
I think it
better.
would be good to have it on a Wednesday
Yeah.
night,
Yeah, I agree.
and people will be really listening.
With 2 microphones.
Mike, do you need an action for us on this or?
No, this is fantastic. We'll work with Nat on inviting him to one of our next huddles that we have to talk about the modeling. And I'm glad there's support for the September meeting. And if we can work that out with the select board, I think we're going to leave the July meeting with a little bit of a cliffhanger. That's the way we're telling this story. This was the technical meeting. We're going to leave it on a cliffhanger in July by saying this is the stressed condition in the summertime. And then hopefully we start answering how we're going to address traffic congestion at the September meeting under different scenarios. And hopefully that kind of winds things down. And it'd be good to have the 2 boards kind of witness that and give us direction of whether this is there's buy-in to those solutions and scenarios or not. So no action, Madam Chair, but I'm glad that there's buy-in to the schedule.
Great, thank you, Mike, thank you. wanna mispronounce. Thank you for the great presentation.
Yeah, no, thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda, the UPWP.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the current year UPWP. This is our annual tradition at the June meeting is to do a budget reallocation based on time that staff used. Here's a large chart showing some changes. I won't read all of the chart, but I'll just note that some time is being moved from data collection and long-range planning to administrative and implementation tasks. The table at the bottom is a more of a succinct summary, but it's still very complicated. I'll just note that the reallocation, again, like I said, is moving money from our long-range planning task and data collection tasks to administrative and implementation. And I would ask that you would approve this budget reallocation so that we could send it to Mass DOT for approval.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 26 UPWP budget reallocation as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Nat, second by Christina. We do have to take
Roll call.
roll call because we
Yeah.
have some people online. Dave.
Aye.
Nat.
Aye.
Christina.
Aye.
Dawn.
Aye.
Liza.
Aye.
Bert.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. The allocation has been done. Now we're moving on to the fiscal year 2027 UPWP. Take it back over to you, Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is we presented the draft UPWP last month, and this month we'd want to close the public review period and approve the UPWP. Again, the UPWP is one of our 3 programming documents that we use to evaluate the transportation system, conduct feasibility studies, and to implement ongoing projects and advanced project development. Again, the budget this year increases 2% from 2026. To 343,799. This again is another of our breakdown of our budget showing salary, overhead, and direct cost budgets, and the lists of administrative data collection, planning, and implementation tasks. This is another further breakdown of the specific planning activities. We do anticipate devoting a lot of time to scenarios for the traffic model and coordination through TPAC. On a lot of tasks, as well as advancing our traffic safety action plan and conducting other implementation tasks for bike paths, intersections, and assisting local boards. Madam Chair, like I said, we did have a public review period that was approved at last month's meeting. That review period went from June 1st to last week. We did have
the dates. I think it was June 8th to June 29th because we moved the meeting, just to note. See what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't update my slide. I apologize for
Yeah.
that.
No, but I just for the record, if you watch our previous meeting, we did update the dates from June 8th to June 29th because we knew we had this meeting today. So just FYI for those watching.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did receive 13 responses from participants during the public review period. They were all in support of the strategies. We did collect concerns as well as part of that outreach. And as we've heard at this meeting, there's concerns with traffic along Old South Road, Nobody Farm Road, and Milestone Road. Madam Chair, we would ask you to take 2 actions, 1 to close the public review period and 2 to approve the draft FFY 2027 UPWP. Happy to answer any questions.
So motion to close the public period. Do you need it in 2 votes?
I think that's what he's saying.
Do we have 2 votes, Mike, or can it be 1?
It could be 1.
So motion to close the public review period and approve the budget as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion by Christina, second by Dave. We're to close the public review period and approve the draft fiscal year 27 UPWP. Dave.
Aye.
Nat.
Aye.
Christina.
Aye.
Dawn.
Aye.
Liza.
Aye.
Bert.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Thank you, Mike. I
Thank you,
think
Madam
we
Chair.
just have two quick things, yeah.
Yeah, just really quick, some outreach, dates for various projects. The select board will have a workshop on long-term parking options at two fairgrounds on July 8th. There's two Tom Nevers meetings, July 15th which is a forum for Tom Nevers Road abutters. And there's a July 22nd meeting at the county commissioners to, determine whether to take easements needed, for the bike path. Then later in July, we'll do, as you just heard, part 2 of our travel demand forecast model presentation. On August 12th, we'll have outreach to the Wawanet Road abutters for various multi-use path alignment alternatives. That'll be with our team at Federal Highway. Will help with that presentation. And then later on in September, we'll have part 3 of our travel demand forecast model presentation. And we do anticipate having later this fall a public informational meeting on the Milestone Road improvements. And Madam Chair, if it's all right, just to jump into the very next item on the agenda, if there's no
Yes.
questions about that. Just we do have appointed members to TPAC, and staff has started to structure an agenda for those meetings. Highlighted on the list here, these are, you already know, they've been appointed members: Matt Lowell, Joe Topham, Mickey Rowland from Commission on Disability. But here are the other members of TPAC. And staff is going to structure an agenda, talking with the real estate office, Bob and Tracy. We want to cover real estate and encroachment issues on the agenda as a specific topic, public access concerns, transportation priorities, which are all the studies and projects that are ongoing. And then we'll review and have that group provide recommendations on our regional transportation programming documents. That it will be in a very important item, Madam Chair. We'll, over the next 2 years, we do need to update our long-range transportation plan. And I hope to use TPAC as essentially the steering committee to help review the goals, priorities, vision, and a lot of the projects that we'll include in that long-range transportation plan. So thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to answer any questions about those.
No, this is great. Thank you. Thanks to everybody who is a part of TPAC. I see a bunch of the people who were previously members of BPAC are on it.
All right.
And thank you, Commissioners Lowell and
We have to-
Topham for being a part of it. And I think it'll be great, like you said, Mike, for them to kind of be that steering committee going forward. So I think
it's gonna take on its own new identity with Tracy and Bob. And I forget his last name all the time, or how to pronounce it. But I think this is gonna be okay. I think this is gonna work.
it's been good.
I think, though, it's gonna evolve, because there's a lot of topics that we were working on right-of-way committee over the years, like Prospect Street. Like, we had a plan for Prospect Street that vanished somewhere. I don't know where it went, but that's the kind of stuff that we need to get back. Because that street needs to have a plan to fix in certain spots. Can't just stay like this forever. So I'm just using that as an example. Mike remembers taking the walks down there with everybody. Thank you, Mike, for everything.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Thank you to the presenters. I'm gonna move on to the next item. So note, we are going to convene in executive session, but later to return to open session. We have 3 items on the agenda. First is to review our minutes from our last executive session, December 15th. Second is to conduct a discussion about a contract amendment with the Deputy Director of Planning, Megan Trudell. And the third reason is to also conduct a contract negotiation with the Director of Planning, Leslie Snell. And as I said, we will reconvene in open session after the executive session discussion is complete.
You need to take a motion.
Can I take a motion to go into executive session?
So,
Okay.
second.
So motion by Liza, second by Dave. Dave.
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
Dawn,
Hi.
Liza, aye. Bert,
All right.
Joe,
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. See you in executive session.
Oh, Megan,
So
just a remind.
Bert and Joe, you're gonna have to log out of this meeting and log back in using that link I sent around this afternoon.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
You guys there?
All right, thank God.
Never got such a welcome, have you, Joe?
I just asked.
Oh, that's
I was
because
like,
he was,
"Said-"
no, that's because he had to go off the one and come back on the other. That's why I took him.
Joe, we were like worried you weren't coming back. All right, really.
Joe, you're muted.
Okay, does anybody want to give me a motion?
Why don't you tell us the
Oh,
motion you
yeah,
want?
yeah.
To
You can
adjourn
give
or-
me a motion to authorize the
Oh.
employment agreement and contract terms for the Director of Planning, Leslie Snell, and an authorization for the chair to sign these.
So we should just read all four of them when we say.
Well, you do have to summarize because the discussion took place in executive session, so you have to give some degree of
Okay,
what you talked about relative to the. contract.
okay, before I do that, sorry. I will summarize. We talked about our executive minutes from December briefly, and we had a motion. And it was approved to release those minutes, so they will be released. We also had a discussion about the contract amendment for the deputy director, Megan Trudell. And we discussed it and just gave some background on how it came about and our discussions with the town and how we're working to align and transition. And then we had a motion on that. And then on the last item, we also discussed the contract negotiation for the Director of Planning, Leslie Snell. We again talked about that. We talked a little bit about performance and different things on how we wanted to handle that. And so we had a couple of things that are key takeaways that I think we will include in the motion, but just some of the takeaways we were talking about is, you know, the job description is outdated, so we think it should be updated. We had discussed about, we think we should update the MOU, make sure we have some independent review. And if dependent on that, we'll have amendments to the contracts if that's needed. And then we also wanted to add an addendum talking about the review process, just formalizing it for the director. So those are a couple of our takeaways. And that's
summarizes it.
that's summary. And so,
We talked about COLA
yeah,
way now.
yeah, and we
Versus-
gave some of that background.
Yeah,
of
which is
understanding
remove the
that it's
review
not-
thing a little bit and kind of rejig it a little to
Yeah.
a different process.
But really just kind of giving context to understand.
Yeah.
For everybody. So with that. I'll take a motion.
I'll make that motion. Oh, wait.
You have to do one at a time.
Yeah, one at a
Start
time.
with the minutes. So to approve and release, yeah,
Make a motion to approve and release the minutes.
The executive session minutes. of
Executive
December.
from
December 15th.
December 15th.
Okay. Motion by Dave to approve
Alright,
and release.
I mean, I'll second.
Motion by Dave to approve and release the minutes, seconded by Nat. Dave.
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
Liza. Aye. Joe.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, and then you said this. Do
Do
I,
the first two together, the second
Okay.
two together.
do I have a motion to authorize the employment agreement and contract terms for the Director of Planning, Leslie Snell? With those key takeaways as we summarize,
Someone,
and authorization of the chair to sign the employment agreement.
yes,
To sign the 3-year employment agreement contract renewal.
so moved.
Okay, second. Okay, so motion by Dave to authorize the 3-year employment agreement and contract terms for the Director of Planning. With the key takeaways as we previously summarized, and the chair to sign the agreement, and that is seconded by Liza. Dave.
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
Liza, aye. Joe.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. And on the second item, do I have a motion to authorize the contract amendment that would extend the deputy director's contract through the end of the fiscal year 28 or 27, 28. So June 30th, 2028 for Megan Trudell and to enable the chair to sign that contract amendment.
So moved. Second.
A motion by Liza, seconded by Christina. Dave.
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
Liza, aye, Joe.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. So, just as FYI, the next steps, I will sign those documents, they will go into, the system or whatever. Hopefully you guys will get your money. If you don't blame us.
Oh, don't worry, Megan will take care of
Just
it.
kidding. And as I said, we kind of memorialize those takeaways. We want to make sure.
Yeah, I
those
think-
don't fall off. We're
Yeah.
gonna keep those on the radar.
Yeah.
And as I said, I think we should put on a future agenda specific discussion about those items and we can include those as bullets. So I think everybody seems to be aligned on that. So that'll be our plan going forward.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Yeah, second.
Okay, motion by Christina, second by Nat. Dave.
Aye.
Oh, motion to adjourn, by the way. I didn't say it. Aye, Nat,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
Liza,
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Congrats, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, for coming back to us.
Yes.
Well, if Dave stopped calling, I could have made it back sooner.
Oh,